We're here with Joanna Gleason.
Hello.
So good to see you.
Good to see you.
So we are in front of the Longacre Theater. We're going to take a little stroll through
Okay.
your impressive Broadway resume.
I had to look myself up.
IBDB Joanna Gleason.
I looked myself up. I've done 15 shows in New York. 15.
Wow.
Broadway, 7 of them on Broadway, and I think 8 off Broadway.
Wow.
I thought I was a busy girl.
Wow. So this theater.
This was
belonged-
Joe Egg, wasn't
Joe
it?
Egg,
Yeah.
or also known as A Day in the Death of Joe Egg, but I guess it was called Joe Egg on
We called
Broadway.
it Joe Egg, and that was the amazing and now lifelong friend Stockard Channing
Yeah.
and Jim Dale,
Yeah.
and it was just spectacular.
Yeah, and they played a couple dealing with a child with cerebral palsy.
Right.
It's a very beautiful play. It's been
Yeah.
revived also.
Yeah.
You got your first Tony nomination.
I did. I didn't look that up. I think I did. Supporting actress.
You
They
did.
called it supporting in those
Yeah,
days.
yeah. And you played like the neighbor.
Yes, the neighbor. And I just remember standing like this with a cigarette and having a blonde wig. And after the show, my father said, "I didn't recognize you. Which one were you?" I went, "Dad, there's only 5 people on stage."
I love that. Your dad had no idea.
No, it took him a minute.
I love that. What did you've been able to do so many different kinds of roles, and this is maybe one of the darker shows you've done on Broadway.
Yeah.
Heavy, right?
It's dark, but it's also very beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful show. What I remember most about it was meeting Stockard, and in fact, I'm going to see her in a couple of months. And
Isn't it great how many amazing artists you've been able to work with?
well, the friends I've made that are the closest to me are the friends that have come from the theater.
Yeah. Well, let's keep walking. We have a lot more to talk about.
Okay.
So that's fine.
All right.
It's the Barrymore Theater.
The birthplace.
This is where you made your Broadway debut.
This is the birthplace.
Yeah.
My Broadway career, 1977. 4 of us on stage: Eileen Graff, Lenny Baker, Jimmy Naughton, and me, and 4 great musicians.
I love my wife. Yeah, the
I
musicians
love
were
my
on
wife.
stage.
They were, led
Yeah.
by Johnny Miller, one
Yeah.
of the great Broadway contractors of music. And Ray Liotta came up to me years ago and said, "I worked concessions at the Barrymore, and I saw almost every performance.
Wow.
And you were wonderful." I thought, Ray?
Wow.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
it was great. It was great.
So this was I Love Your Wife and Cy Coleman, great Cy Coleman music.
Yeah.
This was your Broadway debut, as you
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
And it was 2 New Jersey couples who were maybe thinking about
Wife swapping.
Swapping
really,
or
it was
swinging or-
it was so tame at the time, and yet kind of like, ooh, like. Now you can't do it anymore because it's like, what haven't we seen? But it was very, very funny, really, really funny.
Yeah.
Michael Stewart wrote the book, and Gene Sachs directed us on Broadway, and Anna White did some choreography for us. It was great. It was really great. And I could go to Smiler's on 8th Avenue and walk in, and they'd say, 1 regular coffee and a bagel and I went, yes, and I don't even, when you know that they know your order, you've arrived.
You also were very fortunate to work with Mike Nichols a few times, and
Yeah.
you came back to the Barrymore
Yes.
to be in Social Security,
Social
which to
Security.
me is like the ultimate 80s play, right?
is
The
so
characters,
funny.
it was like it was a comedy.
Yeah, but get this, Marlo Thomas, we played sisters, and the late Ron Silver,
Yeah.
and the late Stefan Schnabel, and the late Olympia Dukakis, I hate saying that, and the late Kenny Welch. It was, I guess they would call it, like a boulevard comedy, but it was funny and smart and fantastic, and we had a ball. And the greatest thing was, on Sundays, those Sunday matinees, it's the end of the week, and you're just like, they were the greatest because we would take turns bringing brunch. Before the show, down in the basement.
Yeah.
Everybody, the crew, the wardrobe people, and us. Pancakes, sausages, coffee, omelet night, Hawaiian night. So you eat, you kind of like fuel up and do the show. And I don't know, these things don't happen in the movies or on TV sets. Really, everybody's so compartmental.
Right.
But my greatest memories are about everything else we did off stage.
Right. The pancakes.
The pancakes.
Well, Joanna, here we are at the
Paul.
Marquee Theater.
We are.
By the way, this looks nothing like it looked when you starred in
No, because when
Nick
I
and
started,
Nora
it had a big black cloud hanging over it. That's
well,
how we knew
besides that,
where to go.
Besides that, the entrance was actually on Broadway.
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. They
That's right.
they rejiggered this whole place.
Yeah.
After Nick and Nora, they
After
said we
Nick
got to
and Nora.
rechange everything.
Have to.
Now Nick and Nora is a legendary flop, is the word people use.
Legendary flop.
It's
yes.
also a musical I love. I've told you this before.
Yeah.
It's a musical based on the Thin Man movies.
Yes.
And you were in it with Mr. Barry Bostwick.
Barry Bostwick. We were Nick and
and
Nora.
a handsome guy named Chris Sarandon, who
handsome
wound
guy.
up being your husband.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Well, that's the thing that came out of it. That's a good thing that came out of it.
That
was the hit. And that was 33 years ago.
Yeah, and you were Nora. And that's an iconic.
I was Nora, and let me just go on the record. In a bad wig, I have to tell you.
Okay, bad wig.
I lost the battle with Arthur Lawrence about everything. About everything.
I mean, it was an original musical.
Yeah, Charles Strauss,
based
Richard
on a
Maltby.
big property. Arthur Lawrence was Charles Strauss. There were big names involved
Yeah.
with it,
Yeah.
and they just couldn't make it work.
Couldn't make it work.
And you previewed for
2 months.
2 months of
2
previews.
months of previews in this town with everybody having an opinion. There was no social media then, but you
Right.
didn't need it.
No,
because everywhere
there
you
were
went,
the phone call. People were calling
oh my
each
God.
other.
It was a nightmare.
I know, and it's funny because I talk to actors who were a part of it, and I look at it with such affection, and it was like you were all at war.
Yeah, not with each other, but
Right.
But with Arthur, who was at war with Charles Strauss, and it was all of this talent,
Yeah.
and a man, Arthur, who would not take notes and who shouldn't have directed.
Right. Right.
Rest in peace, Arthur. You brought me together with Chris. So.
He brought you together with Chris. Is there anything you had great costumes?
Theone Aldridge.
Maybe you hated the wig, but I would say that you had some great songs. I like a lot of the music.
Yes.
I love Charles Strauss.
Yes.
Is there anything you look back, other than the fact that you got to meet Chris Sarandon, with affection about the show at all? Is there anything you enjoyed about sort of tackling? It was also a murder mystery.
It's a murder mystery.
Which was weird for a musical. Unusual.
Yeah, unusual.
You didn't get to choose who the murderer was at the end, like Edwin Drood.
No.
Right.
No. What did I miss? I was falling in love, so we knew. Even my dresser, Katie, we'd stand getting ready, and she'd be putting a hat on me, and we'd be standing looking in the mirror, and she'd just go like, we're doomed. You know that? Just like, yeah, we know.
And then the love was instant. Were you actually dating during the show?
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah. So everything else was not as important as just,
I love it.
Yeah, me too.
Well, you know what? Let's move on. Let's keep going. Joanna, this is the Show and Bell Theater, aka the Plymouth.
The Plymouth.
Plymouth Theater. A lot of theater names changed.
Right, and the booth. This is the booth.
Booth,
still,
and that
yeah.
used to be the
Yeah.
Royale, and this is the main
Yep.
stretch of Broadway.
Yeah.
So this is a beautiful theater, actually.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, beautiful
They're
jewel
little
box.
jewel boxes. Yeah.
Yes. And you, I feel like, so you had your moment, and I Love Your Wife. That's where you made your
Love My
Broadway
Wife,
debut,
yeah.
and then you went to LA,
Yeah.
and you were kind of doing things out in LA, and then
Having
this was
a baby.
Yeah, things like that.
Having Aaron, stuff like that.
Were you a standby originally?
I was a standby for both female leads.
Okay.
And then the cast changed.
Yeah.
John Vickery came in.
It was a big hit.
Caroline
Mike
Lagerfeld.
Nichols
yes.
directed, big hit.
Yeah.
Tom Stoppard play.
Yeah. Gorgeous play. And I went on for 1 week. I got to go on as Charlotte,
Okay.
covering Sarah Botsford,
Okay.
I think, or something like that. Or
Uh-huh.
no. For 1 week I covered. Anyway, I ended up playing both parts.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got to play both parts.
Did you actually, then you officially took over?
No.
Oh, you didn't? You were just playing multiple?
In and
okay.
out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's just like you just got to drop into the hottest show on Broadway.
Yeah.
And prove your real acting
Well,
skill.
it was great. You phone in at half hours, everybody there, and one night Sarah, playing Charlotte, couldn't be found. It turns out she was asleep somewhere, like on a hot, taking a nap. And I get this frantic call, get down here now. They grabbed me out of the cab, they threw clothes on me, and I went on. And that was the night, I think Jeremy might still have been playing.
Wow.
Yeah, and he went, who are you?
Do you do well in that level of stress?
I do.
You do. You excel at that.
Sure, because you're ready. just be ready.
Throw me out there.
Throw me out there.
What was that play about? It's like British people cheating and...
Yes, British people cheating. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Okay, we got to walk a little bit down the street because this is one of my favorite of your credits.
Okay.
Let's go to the Imperial. The Imperial.
Yeah.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Yeah.
I love that show so much. You got to be Muriel Eubanks.
Mm-hmm.
And from my vantage point of the audience, it felt like it was just like musical comedy heaven up there.
Well, it was. I mean, Jeffrey Lane wrote the book and David Yazbek wrote the music. John Lithgow, Norbert Leo Butcher, Renee Scott, Sarah Gettelfinger, Greg Jabara. I mean, we had a ball. We had a ball, and the girls, Sarah, Sherry, and I were on one floor in the dressing rooms, and every Wednesday we would bring in Greek food and eat in a room. You know what I mean? We stayed kind of together. They would decorate. We'd have themes going on for holidays. Our dressers were, Barry and Mel. It was, again, one of those experiences where I remember the people and everything we did off stage more than I remember what was going on stage.
And the food.
And the food.
I mean, there's something about that to me was such a surefire musical comedy. The audience ate it up.
They did.
There's something about bringing that level of delight to audiences.
Absolutely. Kids, young people they bought tickets, I guess, that were cheap, that were right in the front. So we had a lot of young people come back several times. I don't know where they got the money. I mean, it wasn't that cheap. But in one performance, Greg and I are doing our little duet, and I see they've got finger puppets of me and Greg, and somebody's like down there doing this. Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
Finger puppets.
Finger puppets.
They need that at the merch stand. I don't know if
she made them herself or what. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. We got one more. It's a big one.
It's a big one.
The Al Hirschfeld, another new name. This was the Martin Beck Theater.
The Martin Beck, yes.
And this was the home of now a legendary
Woods.
credit, right? Into the Woods.
Yeah.
Into the Woods, original cast.
Yeah.
Baker's Wife.
Baker's Wife.
Musical theater royalty, Tony winner.
Tony winner.
What a incredible legacy that created. And I'm sure at the time you don't know what you're getting into.
You don't know that, and you don't know that PBS is going to film it, and generations will see it, and then
I'll watch it every day for a good period of my life.
That's right, and generations of high school kids and college kids are going to do it, and small theaters. It's just, I hear from these people all the time. For now, it's been 38 years or something like that. It was. I cannot say that I've ever had a more joyous experience.
What was the first interaction with the character for you? Did you immediately click with her?
Well, we did a workshop. I had to audition to do the workshop for it, and I auditioned badly. I'm writing about this in a book I'm writing, but then I made them laugh, and I did something that made them laugh. Sondheim and Lapine and Paul Gemignani. So we did a workshop. We basically really only had most of Act 1 and some sketches of Act 2. But you just get this feeling of, look who I'm in the room with. Yeah. This is going to be something. It's going to be something, and it turned out to be something.
And The Baker's Wife is, of course, you are surrounded by a lot of very famous fairy tale characters.
Yeah.
Baker's Wife was a little bit more
was a fictional character.
Right.
The Baker and the Baker's Wife were fictional, and Chip and I always used to say it's like we're two Upper West Side Jewish people who go, let's get out of the city. Yeah. Let's open up something in the country. There's a place we can get cheap, Yeah. Your father used to live there. Yeah. And so we were more urban in a way. Yeah. While these other characters were who you know. Yeah.
The song Moments in the Woods is a favorite. I think it's one of Sondheim's best songs, actually. It's just such a beautiful story, the way it unravels. What do you love about that moment in the woods?
I think the chance to tell a real story that continues the action, but also it's reflective, where you get to know a character in a way that during the action you don't really take that time. She's just been through something, and processing it live in front of you, this where the worlds have collided, where the two worlds have collided. For me, as an actor, a chance to do a monologue set to Sondheim, words and music, it was a thrill. It was a thrill every night.
How does it feel for you? I know you said you had to look up your credits when you knew we were doing this. Yeah. How does it feel to look back on what you've done on Broadway?
There's been such a gap between the last show I did and now, more than a decade. And so I thought, will anybody ever remember? You know, is it just you have to like look it up to remember? And then I thought, you know, I was part of a time here, a part of a time when lots of us from different shows that were playing at the same time would meet at Orso's between shows on matinee day for lunch. You know, we were like in each other's lives in a way that was the community. This was the campus. I was on campus, you know, for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And this brings back the fact that I did some stuff.
Yeah.
And it feels good.
You
yeah,
did.
Yeah.
It means a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Bye,
Thank
honey.
you. Bye-bye.